Welcome back to the Clubhouse, where we discover all kinds of things about the world, our country, our town, and our neighborhood. In our last video, we learned about the job of a president. We also discovered all kinds of things about... Ooh, here comes Plato. Oh, it's so good to see you, Plato. We have a great lesson today. It's about... Hey, what you got there? Whoa! How'd you get all those quarters? What are you gonna do with all the dollar bills? How did you? Quarters and dollar bills, what do they have in common? Both are forms of United States money. I think you're on to a new plan about money? Thank you. Wait a second. Quarters, dollar bills, and cherries. How do they all tie together? Do you know? I know! Quarters, dollar bills, and cherries have something in common. Or should I say someone in common? George Washington! Yes! In today's lesson, you'll discover how all of these things have something to do with George Washington. And a whole lot more. So stay tuned for this edition of Clubhouse Social Studies. Welcome back to the Clubhouse, everybody. Remember, you are always welcome here. As I mentioned earlier, we're going to talk about George Washington, a famous person in American history. That's right, Plato. Nice wig, by the way. George Washington was the first president of the United States. George Washington was born in Virginia in February 1732. That's almost 300 years ago. His family were farmers. There's a famous legend about George as a young boy. A legend is a story that people tell over and over again throughout the years. It's not always true, but the story has something to teach us. The legend is that when George was a young boy, he went out into the fields and chopped down one of his father's favorite cherry trees. But he didn't get away with it. Oh no, his father came to him and said, "George, did you chop down my cherry tree?" George thought for a second and said, "Yes, Dad. I cannot tell a lie. I chopped down your cherry tree." George took that risk of telling his father what he did. And to George's surprise, his father said, "I'm proud of you, George, because you were brave to tell me the truth. And for that reason, you will not be punished." Phew! George was happy. And this legend teaches us that it's best to tell the truth. People appreciate it and don't like it when people lie to them. Growing up, George was a good student and very good at math. As a young man, he got a job as a land surveyor. He used his math skills to measure land so that people could make maps. After that, he became a soldier. Now, at this time, the United States wasn't a free and independent country like it is now. It was made up of 13 colonies, all of which were part of a place far away called Great Britain. The British were fighting the country of France in what was known as the French and Indian War. So even though he lived over here in Virginia, he fought on the same side as Great Britain. George Washington was a heroic soldier in that war, and many people heard about him. When the war ended, Washington came back to Virginia and worked as a farmer. He married a woman named Martha. Here they are at their wedding. Together, they lived in a big house called Mount Vernon. Right around the time when George and Martha were building their life together, the people living in the colonies decided they wanted to break free from Great Britain. They wanted to make their own laws and live free from the king. That guy there. In order to achieve this, the people in the colonies had to fight a war against Great Britain. And who did they choose to lead their army? George Washington. This war began in 1775 and it was called the Revolutionary War. And if you think Washington was brave during the French and Indian War, he was even braver as a leader during the Revolutionary War. As general, he led his army through many hardships when they didn't have enough food or soldiers. At one point during the war, Washington led his men through the icy cold Delaware River in the dark of night so they could surprise the enemy. The troops were bundled up against the cold and even had to break up ice as they struggled to move the boat through the water. Can you see all the ice on the river in this painting?
Wow!
Don't give up! Don't give up, he told the soldiers. And in the end, because Washington gave his soldiers hope and support, the Americans won the Revolutionary War against Great Britain. In July of 1776, the leaders of the colonies wrote an important document called the Declaration of Independence. It announced that the states were no longer under the king's rule. They were now free and would be called the United States of America. This new country needed laws and a government. So a few years later, the country's leaders wrote the Constitution that lays out the basics of government and laws for our country. It's still used today. The Constitution said that the new country needed a leader. This leader needed to be brave and strong and smart and well liked by the people. So who did everyone choose? George Washington, of course. The people elected him to be the first president of the United States of America.
Yay!
George Washington came up with some ideas on the presidency and the government that are still used today. George Washington was president for 8 years, and then he retired and returned to Mount Vernon. He died a few years later in 1799. Well, the good thing is, Plato, that our nation honors and remembers George Washington in many ways. And you might want to fix your wig there, it's falling off. Here. George Washington's picture is on the dollar bill and the quarter. That's why Plato had those at the very beginning of this lesson. Plus, an entire state is named after him, Washington State. And the capital of the United States is named after him too, Washington, D.C. There are monuments in his honor and sculptures in his honor, and many roads, schools, and bridges are named after him. George Washington was a great man who led the United States at a crucial time when it fought for its independence, and again when it was just starting out as a brand new country. So, thank you, George, for helping us to become the great nation we are today. I hope you all enjoyed today's lesson. Not only do you now know that George Washington was the first president of the United States, you also know why he was elected. Because he led our brave soldiers through difficult wars and helped everyone believe in the promise of a free country, the United States of America. Be sure to check out the PDF for this lesson to do some fun activities and learn more about George Washington. So long, everyone, and see you next time for another episode of Clubhouse Social Studies.